Welcome to Season 2, Episode 28 of Comic Book Nation, the official podcast of Comicbook.com. I am your host, Kofi Outlaw, and with me today is my co-host, Matthew Aguilar.
What up?
We've brought back Mr. Turn Up Charlie, who isn't canceled along with his show.
Aww.
And you guys haven't met him yet, but he is one of our Marvel gurus, comic book gurus, all around just guru-type people. Mr. Adam Barnhart's on the show.
What's going on? You know, this is a major milestone for me. I watch you guys every week, and I almost kind of have butterflies because I actually get to interact with you three. It's like meeting your heroes, right?
I mean,
never meet your heroes.
That's
so
like
nice.
that's slightly less creepy than things Matt says. So like you're on the right
True.
side of the fence.
And it's only going to you guys are only going to be my heroes until Charlie gets in another Twitter fight with me. So
Wait, you? Oh my God! I have so many questions, but okay.
Yeah. Did Charlie turn up on you? Did Charlie? Where were
It's
you guys
not. It's
fighting
not
about
my
on
fault
Twitter?
that Marvel Studios doesn't care about Agents of Shield. It's not.
I was
my
going to
fault.
put a
Oh,
sign
no.
back there
No,
saying AOS
boy.
is canon, but
Yeah, I mean, it is canon. They didn't treat it right. We've had this fight on the show. I went on a whole rant about this and how it's going to bother me. Yes.
Breathe to the fore, and then you gotta
It's
breathe.
going to bother me.
If
that
Agents of
Avengers
Shield is
never-
canon, then Venom gets to be canon. All
No,
right.
Stop.
Yes.
No.
Brandon's
You're
losing
I
his
will make
mind
that
somewhere.
deal right now.
You're just
I will make that
saying
deal right now.
statements. You're just now saying things.
That's a fair trade.
Dude, the whole turn in Winter Soldier doesn't work without Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Like, I don't know what you're talking about. Like, the whole Hydra reveal, like, that doesn't work without that show. And that was, like, the best
It doesn't
part of
work
that
without
show.
Venom.
Shut up. All right. Well, as you can see, we might have made some mistakes with this lineup of guests today, but it's all good. We're here now. So today we have some other things that are talked about that are not Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. quite yet. There's going to be plenty of weeks where that's the only show on TV that we have to talk about, so we can yell about every episode pretty soon. So just stay tuned for that. But today, what we're going to be talking about is the fact that the Assassin's Creed new game trailer has arrived, Assassin's Creed Valhalla, and since Matt is like trying to make himself a game expert, we're going to let him talk about that a little bit.
It's always a backhanded compliment.
This is the only kind Kofi gives.
Yeah, I mean, it is. It's like when I say,
It's like
Charlie,
a brand.
Charlie, come on, I really want you here. Things like that. Anyway, but like, I'm just kidding. I love
Backhanded compliments and lies are different things.
Charlie is I told you you're our number one heel on this show. We love you. People love you. It's not about me. It's about democracy. Clone Wars. We're gonna talk about a little bit Star Wars, about what's going on the Star Wars front with Clone Wars, plus the Star Wars May 4th. Everybody's been kind of wondering how that's gonna go down this year, and now we have an answer. Plus, Matt is gonna get excited about some Disney stuff happening with a few Marvel alumni kind of hopping in to maybe make one of his much beloved Disney live action remakes happen yet again. With a hero that's going to also anger Marvel fans. So
We're going to fight so much about this now.
I know. That's going to be great. So stay tuned for that, Grenade. And in our deep dive today, we're going to be talking about a little debate about Iron Man's future in the MCU or lack thereof. Plus, we're going to get into Netflix's new action flick Extraction, since that is our movie theater now. Plus, Matt, I think, typed in some stuff about comics in here that he's going to actually get to today. And we got to hype up. By the time you hear this, Mr. Adam Barnhart will have hosted a quarantine watch party with the cast and crew of Daredevil. We're getting into season 3, episode 4, I believe was our watch party subject. An excellent selection out of the 3rd season. And so we're going to have a little bit to say about Daredevil and kind of retroactively hype up our quarantine watch parties and get you hyped about Daredevil because he got a chance to talk to the cast. And we're getting into some of that.
Everybody.
Let's start at the top. Matt, we got to see this Assassin's Creed game that we've been calling like Assassin's Creed 2020, like dopes for like a while now, but we finally got to see it. It is, all the rumors are true. It is a Viking set Assassin's Creed game. It's coming to the next gen consoles. That's about all I know because that's as much research as I was willing to do for this show. But Matt, take it away. What is it like we're getting with this Assassin's Creed game?
So there is first of all, the new assassin is named, I want to say Ivor is how you say it. I've heard Ivor as well, but Ivor is what we're going with. Like Odyssey, it will be where you can play as a female or male, and they will have. We've actually seen the female version through a collector's edition, and you can check all this on the site. Comicbook.com has a full rundown of everything we saw. But both designs look really cool. Unfortunately, the trailer was just a cinematic trailer. It still looked awesome, but it wasn't, we didn't get to actually see some of the gameplay and some of the RPG elements. What they did talk about, though, the lead writer actually did an interview with a few sites, and one of the big things was the settlement is going to be where a lot of this is built. So the game starts out in Norway and then makes its way to the UK. And they won't really divulge like why, but essentially like you're driven out of your old home and you have to go take on the authority over there, and you're going to make your own settlement. And kind of like Assassin's Creed 3, which had the homestead where you kind of had people come and you could like shop there and craft there, and you had story quests there. It was kind of your home base, but it was really, there wasn't a lot of substance to it. It was just kind of basic stuff. In this game, they're making that like a huge portion of the game. Like you're going to be returning there throughout. Story stuff is going to feed through there. Stuff there is going to generate new quests. You're going to have a love interest there. You're going to have all the crafting and stuff that you're normally accustomed to. But they're making it like a big thing. You're actually going to see it grow over time. Very much like if anyone remembers Suikoden, like the base building there, it's very much that vein. You're going to introduce new people and bring them in. So that whole thing, plus all the stuff in Odyssey, which was like a fully voice acted, awesome story that blended Greek mythology. This one is going to do for Norse. They've already talked about, like, the trailer hints at Odin being someone they worship, and they see him as real. So you're going to kind of have that in the game. There's not a ton about combat yet. Like, we haven't learned a bunch of like the new stuff that they're introducing. Odyssey's combat was really good, so hopefully they'll just kind of continue going from there. It looks awesome. The biggest thing, of course, is that it's coming pretty soon. It's coming holiday 2020. There's a rumored release date. I think it's November 15th or something along those lines. That's about the same time that Odyssey dropped, so odds are that's probably legit. But we're probably going to get our first look at gameplay in the upcoming. Xbox is doing like their own little Nintendo Direct thing where they're going to stream a bunch of games. They're going to show gameplay for this there. And I think that's like in a month or something. So hopefully we'll get to see more soon. But it looks awesome.
Xbox is doing the first, I think May 7th. I think it's next week.
Is it May 7th? Okay. Yeah. So I mean I'm stoked for that. I mean, the cinematics were gorgeous. There is some interesting hints as to whether the Boss Logic art that introduced this, which was surreal, by the way, was like what?
It was like 7 or 8 hours long. When I got on my shift in the morning, I turned it on. Like one of the first things I did was just put it on in the background.
Yeah,
because it was great music to listen to while you were working.
Awesome music.
And we had our meeting, on Wednesday afternoon, which is when the meeting happens. I have 1 hour left in my shift. We got done the meeting, and it was still happening. After my shift had ended, my full day of work, he was still working.
He was still working. It
was at least 8 hours, 9 hours.
Boss Logic, talented dude. Also, should have like an Assassin's Creed like Bob Ross show, because that music, killer. I was so soothing for like half the day. I was listening to that in the background. But what it revealed was a new Assassin's logo on the axe. So some people were kind of debating whether he was going to be an actual, like, you play as a Templar or you would play as an assassin, because other games have played with that, like starting you out as a Templar and then you figure out you're an assassin, things like that. There's still some of that debate, but it seems like they actually are an assassin this time around. So it looks cool. I'm stoked. Odyssey is one of my favorite games, period. They did so much great work there. I'm really excited to see what they can do with this setting and the character.
All right. Anybody else? Anybody? I mean,
Vikings are awesome. Right?
Vikings are awesome. I personally fell
great.
off of Assassin's Creed after 2 or 3 because I was just like, this is too repetitive. I can't. Right. I can only perch on so many cliffs and do that whole thing. And yeah. But it looks cool. It definitely does. I hope it's going to be pretty good, badass entry on next gen consoles. And it seems like this is a good indicator. We're definitely going to get these next gen consoles before the end of the year.
It seems that way with them being both on PS5 and Series X.
Yeah.
It seems like, at least right now, with the way things are, I know PlayStation was having some like chip issues with not being able to like purchase enough because they were in high demand because they were 5G related. So they were having a bunch of shortages. I don't know if that's still the case. I know at least Microsoft is aiming, unless something really drastic happens, Microsoft is aiming for a holiday this year. It will be very interesting to see, like, depending on the economy, how many people are just willing to go. I know the PS5 is not as expensive as we thought, at like only $400 compared to $600 of the PS3 at one point, but still, that's $400 that, with the way things are, it's going to take people a long time to kind of get out of holes, you know, with the way things have been for a few months, and
Well,
probably
that's the
will
weird
be.
thing. It's like the staggering. It's like the staggering of the economy. It's like if your job is going, yes, you're gonna PS5 is far from your thoughts right
Right?
now.
Yeah.
Right.
But if you
And
still have
part
a
of it, too,
job,
like-
but the other side is if you still have a job, like we don't really spend money on much anymore. Like,
Yeah.
it's
Right,
like, I
yeah.
got money stacking. I mean,
But part of the
not to
hard
brag
thing
and
is,
like be short for it, but like I was actually remarking the other day. I was like, I don't spend now that I'm in the house. It's remarkable how much money I save on just like ridiculous things I didn't even know I was like spending this much money.
yeah, like I
on.
haven't paid for
Like,
gas in
yeah, and it's like
month.
gas, just leisurely food stuff I eat, random things I just buy, like
Yeah.
and purchase and all that stuff. And I was like, yeah, I mean, so by the time December comes, and if we're still trying to be like, we're in a place where winter flu season hits, and we're gonna be right back to where we are now, like it's an investment I might be thinking about. You know what I mean?
True. I
Like,
didn't really think about it from that angle. That's very true, because what else
our
do you
whole
have to
habits have
do?
changed. Like, you
Yeah.
now just drop the 500 and know you're going to be inside for like the next 6
Well,
months.
and part of the trouble is normally
point.
when these things launch, we all know they're coming, and we have stores like, GameStop's the most prominent one, but where you can actually trade in and kind of, okay, I can go in right now and say I want to buy a PS5, and I can put down, a little bit of money and then trade games in throughout the summer and kind of put some money towards it through the summer and then buy it once it comes out, not having to pay that much because I've already been paying it off. And I mean, I'm sure you can do that online with a Best Buy or a Walmart, but you can't do the trade-in thing. And so it makes it kind of like,
now they're working on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just kind of, it's like, if it depends on when things open back up, I think that affects it too, how people can get this.
But yeah, but in any, I mean, either way, this looks like a great launch game. Ubisoft's been killing it. Origins was great as well, and also Odyssey. I will have an article going up later, actually from a conversation with Charlie, that is like the best ones to start with, because right now you can play. I mean, there's so many games in the series, so definitely check for that.
Yeah, actually, on Matt's advice, I went and bought Origins. It was $15 on the PlayStation Store yesterday. So
As long as you put
I
two,
went and bought that.
As long as 2 is at the bottom where it belongs. Like,
Whoa, what?
Oh
Man,
my
I took,
God,
okay, I will
stupid
say real
DaVinci
quick, I
crap.
took a
Oh my
poll
God.
of fans. I was surprised at like how 2 just crushed. 2 crushed. Like it wasn't even close. It was like 46% to 26 of the next one. And I was like Black Flag, which is also really light. And Odyssey came in at like 15. Crazy.
Right. Moving on from Matt's gaming world to Star Wars world. Clone Wars is coming to an end right now, and we just got done with the big duel between Darth Maul and Ahsoka Tano, which was a very satisfying kind of culmination of that whole storyline, and really interesting in a way that I hadn't thought about. So we kind of teased it when we had Ashley Eckstein on the show. Now we're going to talk full spoilers about this. We talked a little bit about the first part of Phantom Apprentice, which was kind of this enriching backstory to Revenge of the Sith that shows you how Anakin Skywalker and Obi-Wan Kenobi came to this kind of crossroads right before the events of that film and their mission to save Palpatine from the fake abduction with General Grievous. They could have gone with Ahsoka to stop Maul on Mandalore, and then we had a big siege of Mandalore with Ahsoka and Bo-Katan and the Mandalorian kind of traditionalists going up against Darth Maul and his band of Mandalorians. But in this one, this was the main event. So we saw Ahsoka and Darth Maul kind of face off. And again, I think I like this Clone Wars season, even some of the slower parts people have complained about, because what the payoff that it builds up to is really rich. And this one was another one of those pivotal moments that the Star Wars animated series has done so well. They've nailed duels probably better than anybody since the original trilogy. Sorry, prequels and sequels.
I don't know. Duel of the Fates is like, I agree with you, but just don't sleep on
Duel of Fates is visually cool with people flipping around like ninjas, but like in terms of like a classic Star Wars duel was like one where there was this
Oh, it
heavy
was this battle
story
was
and
incredible.
characterization that happens within the fight, and Clone Wars kind of does that better than. If you want to see that, I mean, the best example is like the Darth Maul final Obi-Wan Kenobi fight, which is literally like a 2-strike fight, like, and then it's over, but it's still like so epic and awesome. So Ahsoka versus Darth Maul was really cool because I think until this Clone Wars, you really didn't necessarily think about how these two kind of are really connected in a weird way. They're basically like the washout apprentices of, you know, the whole Darth Sidious plan for Anakin Skywalker to become his apprentice. That you saw how that kind of washed out Darth Maul early on in the prequels, and eventually, if you watch Clone Wars, you saw what happened to Ahsoka and her kind of fall off. And so Maul and her have this weird connection. So they have a great duel, but they also have this very great conversation where Maul kind of hints that he's had this vision, that he knows that Sidious's plan is about to drop, and that he knows the chaos that's about to kind of ensue in the galaxy, and he knows about the plan to turn Anakin Skywalker, which sets up that Ahsoka kind of knows this during those pivotal events where Anakin is kind of losing his mind during Revenge of the Sith. And the reason I thought it was cool to talk about, just beyond the awesomeness of the duel in the episode itself, was that we got there's been rumors floating that Clone Wars, somewhere in this last 2 episodes, could feature a cameo from Darth Vader or Anakin as Darth Vader, which I thought was really interesting because we've seen Darth Vader in Rebels in animated form. We've heard him kind of hinted at in his voice in a Clone Wars vision that Anakin has. But I thought when I was writing about it that this would be kind of cool and almost necessary to end the show, because now with everything you set up, you kind of have to have the moment where Ahsoka sees him as Vader for the first time, even if he doesn't see her or notice her, and the kind of the impact of that. Because I went and rewatched Rebels, what is that, Twilight Apprentice, I think it's called, those episodes. Anyway, where she faces Vader, and if you go back and watch that dialogue, it's very kind of key because Dave Filoni and kind of hints that she's known and seen him before, even if they're meeting to mutually meeting for the first time in that scene. So I thought that'd be a really kind of powerful way to kind of give fans a send off for Clone Wars, is to see Ahsoka have to kind of take the trauma of seeing Anakin like this. But of course, still becoming the hope and to honor his memory by being his apprentice and what she's going to do. And that would be pretty awesome. So thought I'd see how you guys thought about that. Do you think we're going to see that moment? Do you think they're going to put Vader? Do you think that's going to be our out for Clone Wars? And how you feel about that?
I mean, they could do it. They could do it, but I mean, they don't need to. Like, it would be cool. It'd be cool to see his evolution, to see Ahsoka react to that. But like, it was almost frustrating watching that duel between Ahsoka and Darth Maul, because that pairing could have held an entire trilogy on their own. Like, when you think about the backstory, and really in this episode where you explore their similarities and how they connect to one another, and how no one understands Ahsoka's struggle quite like Darth Maul does, and she has an appreciation for what he's gone through. Like, especially seeing after how all the Rey and Palpatine stuff went, and how the Kylo Rey things kind of, and like the prequel, you could do a whole trilogy about these two characters, and it would be so satisfying and so fulfilling, because there's so much story baked into both of them. And it really, like, more than any other Star Wars thing has done in a long time, this episode really kind of culminated in something that, you felt like you got what you'd hoped for in their interaction. And so all that to say, I think that Darth Vader being there would be cool, but only if it really is, if it pushes Ahsoka's story. I think just to put Darth Vader in there for looks, it's like, that's fine. But if he can have an impact on Ahsoka going forward, and how she, reacts to this whole thing, and how she gets from Clone Wars to Rebels, like, I think that could be very interesting.
Right.
I'm talking to nobody. Adam, are you a Star Wars fan? I don't think we've ever discussed.
I am. Yeah, I love Star Wars. I mean, the Darth Vader bit, it would make sense. Especially at this point, it's almost, it's the definitive end of an era, right? I guess the question would be, if we wanted to get, is it fan service over or plot or substance, I guess. I'm interested, Charlie. Would you rather see, Ahsoka and Darth Vader? Would you rather see the Darth Maul trilogy or spinoff you teased or talked about over the Vader interaction?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I think that Star Wars has shown recently, especially with the Rise of Skywalker, in my opinion, that when it tries so hard to connect to the past, in a way that's just like, we want to connect to this, let's figure it out, it doesn't ever come across super well. But I think if they connect, then it's really, really natural, or when they're just exploring these characters that we have not explored before, it really shines. And that's what we get with Ahsoka, and that's what Clone Wars and Rebels did so well with Darth Maul, is like, we knew Darth Maul, but this actually had a reason to dive into his backstory, and it had a payoff and a purpose. And so, like I said, I'm all for seeing Ahsoka and Darth Vader if it can further Ahsoka's story, because she's become such a compelling character. I mean, I know there's some folks online who think that Ahsoka is kind of just a throwaway character, and that could not be the furthest thing from
it's a hard thing to argue.
It is.
If you've actually watched all the story there, how could you argue she's a throwaway?
There's so much development in her
really
character from season 1.
Oh, dude, did you not see that guy who I'm not going to name in the industry who did the whole rant about Ahsoka, and he was like wrong about every fact about her?
No,
it was
just like it was a whole thing.
Yeah, it was that guy. I'll tell you offline about who that was.
Right.
Because
I'm not gonna hype it. I'm not hyping him up. But
because I'm not the biggest Clone Wars or Rebels person, but like that character, like I would never dismiss that character as.
And when you watch it, when you see where she was, I mean, when you watch season 1, it's like she seems like, okay, you wanted to put a sidekick there, whatever. But as you watch her develop and grow, and like she really becomes the star of the show. And not in a way of like they're forcing her to be the star. Like, you just constantly want to see more of Ahsoka's story. At the beginning of this final season, I loved what were they called? The clones that were the outcasts or whatever. Yeah, the Bad Batch. I really enjoyed them, but for those first 4 episodes, I kept telling myself, like, I want to see more Ahsoka. Like, where's Ahsoka? Absolutely. We haven't seen her yet. Like, where's Ahsoka? And it's because Dave Filoni and that team did such a great job, and I mean, Ashley Eckstein did incredible job, with her voice and bringing her to life. And now it's like the idea of her being in live action in The Mandalorian is one of the things about Star Wars I'm most excited about, because Ahsoka's become such a great character in the canon.
All right, so check out Clone Wars, because that's coming. There's a lot of ways Darth Vader could be. I mean, it doesn't even have to be related to Ahsoka. It could be some clones that he butchers that he used to be friends with. Darth Maul could end up being in front of him.
You see him murdering some kids again.
Yeah, man, the good stuff. The good stuff. Geez. Happy days. All right, so moving right along. This year, Star Wars is going to be doing May the 4th celebration by doing a virtual convention. So here we go. We've been speculating about how this was going to go down and that it was going to start to happen across the board. And this is one of the first big ones. So we're having a virtual convention. Yeah. There you go.
It's the future. It's the future.
So
we definitely didn't talk about this last week.
Yeah. What's up?
Conventions and
new
ideas. And
when we argued. Yeah, check out our last episode where we argued about Marvel Con and that whole thing.
I think that was the most. Is it safe to say that was the most heated since Joker? I think that was easily the most heated.
Yeah, it was one of our more heated episodes since Joker. Yeah, for sure. People loved it, but
Joker was the last time Brandon and I were on the podcast together.
I know. I have to pull those out very selectively. It's a very fine mix that, like, it burns well when you light it up, but it's very volatile. It can explode very easily. Yeah. So, Star Wars May the 4th celebration is going to be hosted over virtual convention, over social media platforms, a number of different ones, and they're going to be set like a real convention, like different areas, blah, 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 so just different platforms. And they're going to be franchise hosting Q&As, live tweet screenings of films, quizzes, trivia, contests. They're thinking about. I mean, they're coming up with good ideas. It's ways for everybody to participate. There'll be platforms probably like Instagram Live where you'll see cast and exclusive new interviews about stuff and things like that. And who knows what other kind of surprises that could come out of that whole thing. Don't expect no new movie stuff, but like there's other stuff that could definitely happen. So that'll be kind of cool to see. And man, I'm kind of happy about that because, I mean, as we know from the ground, obviously, quarantine watch party being a thing that, you know, thanks to Brandon, we've all kind of now been thrown into. And I make that sound bad, but it's not. It's actually really just good. It's all positive. There's no back end to that. And so, like, yeah, these are actually surprisingly fun. That one thing that's come out of this whole lockdown thing is, yeah, virtual kind of interactions, conventions, and mass gatherings of people. It's a lot of fun, and it's not even a flash mob. So, like, you know, I didn't think you could have that fun with like, you know, virtual gatherings, but here we are. So that'll be cool. So check out May the 4th. If you want to participate, you don't have to leave your home this year. Just get online, pick your favorite social media platforms, or just try to stroll through the convention all day long. Enjoy. So now let's see, Charlie and Matt. Here we go. So Disney is possibly tapping Jon Favreau and the Russo brothers. Jon Favreau, who made the first Iron Man films, the Russo brothers, who made the best Captain America and / Avengers films, are kind of being tapped by Disney to make a live action Hercules. And I joked at the top of the show, and this is the live action remake of the Hercules animated movie from
not 90s. Kevin Sorbo's Hercules.
Yeah, not Kevin Sorbo's. And not Marvel.
The Rock's,
not
Hercules,
or
who's the other
Hercules, one? And not
the guy
Marvel.
from Twilight.
Oh, Kellen Lutz.
Oh,
Kellen
God,
Lutz,
I always forget about that one. Yeah,
I had to review that movie.
That was a big January push.
I forgot.
Oh, man. I don't even know who I was working for back when I had to review that movie. When was
it was what, 2013?
I don't know. It was a dark time.
It was 2013 because it came out within like a year and a half of the Rock movie.
Which
that was like that Hercules Begins or whatever, like Hercules, like that Rise of Hero, like that was actually, I think, better than the Rock one.
Yeah, the
Rock's had more money, and the Rock was a better casting for the character, but Brett Ratner directed the movie, and he's not only a horrible person, he is a really bad director. So it makes sense that movie sucks.
Yeah, but that was crazy. I forgot that all happened. Like, oh man, Charlie, you're taking me back.
Yeah,
that was a
big thing for a minute.
Hercules, the legend begins.
And that was either, I think it was the same year or right the year like before or after that White House Down and Olympus Has Fallen came out at the same time too. So it's like
we had
a bunch of
same
these
exact movie
right in a row where it's like here's the same movie twice.
Yeah, no, I forgot. Okay, so the Legend of Hercules was the Kellen Lutz one. I remember this. Now it was 2014 to begin. That was such a good year too. It began so bad, but it was 3D, and by Rennie Harlan, the guy who did like Die Hard 2, I believe. Die Hard 2 guy. So you had this weird kind of PG-13 Hercules origin movie with these crazy dark moments that look like they could have been in Die Hard 2, filmed in the guy who made Die Hard 2 trying to use a 3D camera, which was one of the worst things I've ever seen in my life. Who's like, yeah, for the chariot, let's just get down to the fucking wheel and like, the wheel's 3D, look at that. Like, and it's just like, oh my God, stop showing me this spinning wheel. Like the movie was so bad. But like, that was the same year as the Rock's Hercules. Yeah, like, so Hercules hasn't had it easy, man. Like, it just.
The freaking wheel.
Well, and that adds to why this whole Disney making Hercules is kind of frustrating, because I think a lot of us are sick of the whole like live action remake thing.
I'm not sick of that.
Lion King was so bad.
I'm just
Lion King was one of the worst things I've ever seen.
I am not sick of that.
Is that true?
No, maybe not the worst thing. Lion King was bad. No, but it was bad. And
I'm sorry. Kellen Lutz was the famous. Yeah, that was the one that bombed.
On
the Rock's
top
made
of
$244 million on 100. Kellen Lutz's Hercules, the budget for that was $70 million, and it made $60 million worldwide.
That's because 2 weeks after it came out, I Frankenstein hit theaters and knocked it away.
Dude, oh man,
I love I Frankenstein.
You're reminding me on like one of my worst.
I worked in a movie theater at the time, so it was like that's when I worked at a movie theater. I remember everything that came out from like.
I was just getting into
2013,
heavily
2014
into junkets, so I had to do all these junkets and talk to all these people as if
and pretend that you liked it.
I can't say anything. I like Frankenstein.
But
I love I Frankenstein. It's one of my guilty pleasure movies.
Yeah, I was like talking to Stuart Beatty about a whole I Frankenstein universe.
I thought it was cool. Yeah,
sweet. Like we plotted it all out. I was all in that franchise. Too bad it went under. So.
It was great. Anyway,
Charlie's negativity.
The live action movies that from Disney that are already kind of getting a little old. but also the recent, within the last 6 years, multiple Hercules live action movies that have come out.
Okay, to be
And
fair,
it's like combining for this thing.
to be fair, you had to remind half of us that one of those existed. So I don't think that stigma's really going to stick.
I think
half
oh,
of those
Hercules, like, didn't we do that?
No one remembers.
Have you been on Twitter today? Have you been on Twitter today?
Okay, Twitter is a small microverse of the real world. I'm just saying.
I understand. I'm just saying I'm not the only one.
Everything. Because if I listen to Twitter, I would be like, if I listen to Twitter for everything, like that.
I'm surprised this is Charlie's hang up. Like, my big thing was like, I think Marvel fans are going to be pissed that it's not their Hercules. They hear those names and they hear Disney's making Hercules with the Russos and Favreau, and they're like, finally, it's happening. Like, and it's not happening.
That's not my hang up. It's just like, I feel like it's not a great time. But
why not? Okay, here's the thing. I have on record, Lion King's not my favorite live action version that they've done.
Well, it's not live action at all.
I'm saying, but it's not my live action remake. Yeah. Semantics or not, it is not my favorite of their productions. Like, it's fine. There's parts of it I really like, but you know, it's the one that especially pales in comparison to Favreau's Jungle Book, which is far superior. And
it's much better. I still didn't love it, but it's a lot better than.
I really like Jungle Book. So my thing is Hercules is perfect for a live. I almost did that at the beginning, but I agree. Give away what we were talking about.
That's the thing, is I agree with you that if you're just looking at the Disney animated movies and you're like, pick out which ones you think would be best for a live action adaptation. Yeah, the first thing I would say is Mulan, and the second thing I would say is Hercules. Those are the first two that'll come to mind.
Hercules has the animated characters.
Here's what I think Charlie might have been right, like traditionally, but might be wrong in this case, is only because it's kind of why you cite it's. The animated version of Hercules is a very different flavor of the Hercules story than just about anybody else. It's much more comedic and kind of like winking about
but what are they going to do that with it in live action? Are they going to take the Mulan route?
I mean, if they have to, if they try to go straight up like action adventure, this thing is dead in the water. Like,
I mean, they're going to make it like if the Russos are producing, and if they get Favreau, they want to make it the tone of a Marvel movie.
And I say that's not true. Favreau Jungle Book is very much. I'm not saying it's because
Favreau, but I'm saying when you look at the pieces lining up, if it is Favreau and if the Russo brothers are producing, and it's this property that is action packed but can also be fun, they're going to try and make it the same tone as what we've seen in the MCU. They're going to try to make it an action packed but also fun movie.
I don't think that's. I mean, look, I'm not the. I really like the Russo brothers and like what they've done, but I'm also like, but I'm not necessarily like the number one fan. But what I will say is I'm not going to pigeonhole them. If they're signing on to a Hercules movie, I'm pretty sure Disney.
These are the guys who did come up making like Arrested Development.
Right. I'm not saying
know what they're getting into.
I know they are. I'm saying when you look at if they're trying to pair the Russo brothers, who are the big Marvel people, with another Marvel director.
Yeah.
I think that.
Who left a Marvel franchise that they could still be with if they wanted to make more Marvel movies. I
we'll
imagine
later.
To make something
I'm
else.
simply saying I can see them trying to make the tone of Marvel. It's going to be an action comedy. Like that's what they're going to go for.
I mean, like I don't think
with
we're
the
all
movie. They're not going to be serious or funny. It's
but I think there's a lot of room. Just saying, action comedy is one thing, but like I think there's a lot of room there because there's a lot of room, and especially now on a day where like I'm writing articles about GQ doing about Chris Hemsworth being the icon of the post-hunk era in Hollywood. You know what I mean? Like there's actual room for this to be kind of a winking kind of send up of the traditional kind of machismo hero story and really do something funny with that.
I mean, Hades alone.
Yeah. Oh, I think they should drag James Woods' crazy ass back out.
Here's the thing:
throw him back in, throw in just.
If I didn't,
don't tell him it's a movie. Just like get a camera out and just start filming. Ask him about modern things and just let him start talking.
That crazy old
man.
Throw
some CGI on it and make
just
him
have
look
him reread his tweets.
Yeah, just make him look like a crazy underworld ghoul. It'd be perfect. Like
play yourself on Twitter.
No, don't tell him it's a movie. Just sit him down with the dots on his face, sit him down in a chair and just be like, start talking and then take all the facial stuff.
Yeah, I think that movie suits so well to like this day and age and what Disney has shown to do with their live action stuff that again embraces more of the heart and personality of their movies. There very much is a divide between like I feel like Mulan is going to also fit into that Lion King category of they're taking some of the fun out. And it's going to be
Mulan's
kind of bland.
people are people, and
I'm
not
saying
talking
they're
animals that
still,
look
it doesn't matter. They're
weird.
still based on animated movies that have a very
but
specific tone and
but
heart.
it's also okay.
You
But
can't
Mulan
leave
is
it out.
an animated movie. Yes, you can, because
No, you
Mulan was
can't.
not an
Beauty and
animated
the
movie.
Beast did not leave
Mulan
that
was
out.
a
Aladdin did not
story.
leave that out. No, they didn't. Those movies embraced tone and
Have you, okay,
still blended it.
Mulan, before it was a Disney animated film,
Yes.
was
I
an actual
understand,
story from
but they're
from
not
Japan, or from
making
China.
a story based on that. They're making a
That's
story
what-
based on
but that's what this
Disney's
movie is.
interpretation.
No, they're
then you
not.
shouldn't. Yes, but that is what people go into a Disney.
Okay, but I'm just telling you what they did with Mulan.
Hercules Greek.
I'm just telling you what they did with Mulan.
Yes,
That's all I'm
I
saying.
understand that these are based on real things, but we are not talking about them reinterpreting an old story from history or from
I brought that up
tales.
because
They're
that is
interpreting
what they
their
are
own
doing.
tones.
Okay,
So,
but
no.
that's not what they're doing with Mulan. If they were interpreting their
You
own
know
tones
that's
with
what they're doing
Mulan,
with Hercules?
no, but that's not what I'm talking
And
about.
Mulan looks like a dud because of that. It doesn't
I
have
don't
any
think
of the
so.
heart and charm.
Mulan looks like
okay.
the first
No, I'm with Matt on
live action
this.
Disney movie that I'm actually gonna enjoy.
No,
I have
I'm
not
not
liked a
with
single
you.
one since they've started doing this.
I don't think. I think you're one man against three right now. Like, if I have to be
Yeah.
honest, like I'm with Matt. I think it looks like a dud because they took out the dragons, they took out the mysticism. It just looks like a very serious kind of crying game military movie, and it's just like, you know,
It looks intense. It's an intense story. The backstory of Mulan
It's
is
great,
is
and I
real
would like to
intense.
see someone
and
else
if it,
other than
and if
Disney
it was
tackle it.
like, and if it was like Ridley Scott's Mulan, I'd be like,
yes.
yeah, I'd be in. But like, this is Disney's Mulan. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean,
Like,
we'll
and
see.
it
I'm just
don't
saying,
feel
like,
like
I think
there's
that the
magic.
trailers were pretty good, and I think that I like the direction that they went, because they said if we try to do the animated movie, it's not going to work. So let's do something different. And I think Aladdin did that same thing, but in a different way. They said, let's try to make something different than the animated movie.
And still,
And I think
Aladdin embraced tones.
Aladdin was the only one that I've remotely had fun with.
Beauty and the
and-
Beast was fun to me because it embraced the spirit of that movie very
I
much
just
so.
think- listen,
Christopher
like-
Robin embraced the Winnie the Pooh segment.
yeah,
like
we're
there's
getting
a lot.
Christopher Robin were the characters. It wasn't
we're getting
an adaptation of
sucked
a
into
movie.
a whole
Again.
Disney thing. But here, we're gonna move on. But I'm just gonna say, I want Hercules to go full funny on the Greek stuff, full funny on the machismo stuff and God stuff, and just
And I want Michael
Have some
Bolton
fun.
back for Go the Distance.
Jeez.
Drag James Woods and drag Michael Bolton back. I want all of that for
and there
that.
better be a Pegasus. That's all I'm saying.
So
All right.
yes.
All right, so let's move on because we could be arguing this forever with these two. When we get back, we're going to deep dive into another question that could possibly tear us apart about the MCU. We're going to review the new Chris Hemsworth movie Extraction and talk about some comic stuff. So stay tuned for all of that. All right, so let's just get into this. Our question today. So we did this Avengers Endgame watch party, and it brought up all kinds of new insights about the film from the writers, Marcus and McFeely, from the directors, the Russo brothers. And of course, the big way that movie ends is with Tony Stark sacrificing himself and kind of coming full circle from, guy who makes weapons to kill people to saving everybody. And jumping on the proverbial grenade that Cap accused him of never being able to jump on in the first Avengers. And that was his ending, and it was this kind of full circle thing. But the Russos were addressed. They were on a different podcast and kind of talking about, the future of Iron Man. And there is this looming question with every Marvel fan. Will Iron Man ever be brought back to the MCU, either like through some Tony Stark resurrection or alternate version, or a new Iron Man, or like whatever, what have you, or all the ways the comics have made that possible? And the Russos basically said, they gave the Marvel answer, right? Which is like,
Right.
it's like, well, it all
Nothing is ever
depends.
sacred and nothing can die.
Nothing
Right.
is certain. Nothing is certain or set in stone. So it all like it would have to be kind of done.
All it's going to take
the
is
right
one more
way.
Doolittle.
Oh, stop it!
That's all it's going to take.
Stop it. So like, yeah, I mean, it depends on how he was brought back. It turns about the story, in that it would have to be something earned. You can't just like have him pop up and come back because you want it. You'd have to kind of really do it. And like we said, there are a lot of ways to do this that the comics have made possible, right? The comics have made it possible from anything from an alternate universe Tony Stark, who would be, conceivably able to figure out his way over into this one, to him being recreated as one of his own AI systems, which again is a way Tony Stark has survived in the comics, and Endgame even sets the stage for that, because he kind of knew this time travel thing could go haywire and made some provisions before he died, obviously, in the whole eulogy or the whole like last will and testament he leaves. So these are all possible things. I wanted to go around the room, see real quick with everybody, do you think Iron Man should be brought, or there is a way to bring back Iron Man to the MCU for even a brief moment of a storyline or event or something like that? If so, how would you do it? We'll start with Adam, since he's
Before we start, I just want to say on record that I think Matt and I are going to agree about one major point that I feel like we will both make.
Yeah, we'll see when we get there.
I want to say that general statement before we get there.
All right,
that's all.
Adam, go for it.
Not be created in any shape, way, or form. Keep him dead. So that's the thing with Marvel. We have Phase 4 coming up sometime, right? It's the most bonkers thing we've ever seen planned. We have Shang-Chi. We have an absolutely bonkers Doctor Strange 2. We have the Eternals. All sorts of stuff on Disney Plus. Let's keep Iron Man dead and just keep him dead. You know, why do we need him back? I really don't think we need him back. Stan Twitter's probably not going to like me, you know, but just keep him dead. Keep him dead. And I don't know. We've had 10 years of the guy, right? I mean, do we need him back? That's why I love Chris Evans and I love Cap. Maybe like an old man Cap in the Falcon and the Winter Soldiers, and just put Cap in the home or something, you know, just let's move on and explore all these new characters. You know, I mean, RDJ is Tony Stark, and just imagine them recasting him. It's going to be crazy, you know. Just keep him dead.
All right, Charlie, time to turn up.
Okay, I agree with Adam. Keep him, like, if the conversation is about Tony Stark, I do not want to see him again. It's one thing if you're in the past and there's like a little flashback scene, he makes a little cameo in a flashback from when he was still alive, you know, say in Black Widow or in Eternals, one of these movies that takes place in the past. And it's like, oh, Tony Stark, like a little moment. That's fine. That's cool. I get people want to see Robert Downey Jr., whatever. That's all well and good. But if you're going to, like, in canon, in the future of the show, or of the movie, like of the series, of the franchise, whatever, if you're going to resurrect him, that I think downplays his entire arc in Infinity War and Endgame, and it takes away. I mean, I think Tony Stark was already kind of a weird walk the line character for me, because like a lot of his actions to me were not heroic for a long time, and I think he ended on that like final redemption where like, okay, cool, I'm finally doing the thing I've always wanted to do and protecting everyone and fixing it. Done. To bring him back only is going to make him worse. Like, they need to leave well enough alone. And part of the issue with the MCU going forward is that I feel like it's going to get repetitive if they keep trying to do stuff like that. You know, we've had 10 years of these characters, and I'm really excited. I mean, there's some with stories left to tell. Sure. Like, I'm excited for this Thor movie, which I'm sure will be the last time we see Chris Hemsworth as Thor. I'm excited for some of the characters like Ant-Man or Captain Marvel or Black Panther, who we've only had glimpses of, or, you know, small portions of so far. You know, but they're putting to rest Cap. They're putting to rest Iron Man. They're putting to rest Black Widow, like, because their stories are done. And if we keep trying to hinge on that for another 10 years, the franchise is going to feel really stale. And what they're doing in Phase 4 is exciting, like Adam said, because they're doing weird stuff. They're bringing in new characters. They're taking things. I mean, Doctor Strange 2 is going to be a completely different movie from Doctor Strange 1. Mm-hmm. And they're trying new things. And that's what's going to keep this franchise alive for as long as they want to keep it alive. But they have to be willing to let go of the past and not pull a Star Wars. And the third thing that I'm going to say before I pass it to Matt, and this is where I think that we're the same on this, I think you can bring in a version of the character, but Tony Stark cannot be it. Tony Stark is done. If you want to bring Riri Williams into the MCU, by all means, bring Riri into the MCU. That would be awesome. You know, if you want to do something with the kid from Iron Man 3, like in the future, and have him as a little side character, not a whole movie, but if you want to have him in a movie sometime, do that. Fine. I don't care.
Well.
I don't care. I'm just saying, leave Tony Stark dead. Riri is obviously the best option. I don't want to see the Tyler kid. Is it Tyler? I don't know. I don't want him to be Iron Man. But if he's going to pop up and like talk about some stuff, cool. But if you're going to like reinvent an Iron character, it needs to be Riri. You know, there's room with Morgan Stark, I guess. Like, it doesn't matter. The point is Tony Stark's dead and he needs to stay that way.
Matt.
I'm on the same page with Charlie when it comes to that. In fact, I slipped in a little origin story into that story, how to bring Riri into the MCU. And still, I agree with Adam. I think he needs to stay dead. This is something the comics, just the way comics are built, so cyclical. Characters don't die for very long, or if they do, they're dead for like 2 years and then they come back. It's way too short. If you're gonna bring him back as an AI, I'm actually fine with it, but make the impact count. I don't think bringing him back in 10 more years diminishes anything about Endgame and Infinity War. They're not like precious gems. Like, they'll be fine, okay? Like, it's not
Stones.
it's whatever.
Stones.
It's fine. So I think, though, it needs to be long enough to justify it. So I think in phase 6 or however long these things space out, another 10 years.
You are
bring
giving
back
us a
RDJ
lot
when
of,
he's
you
what,
are giving us a
65?
lot of credit.
I am absolutely, because I think honestly that's the time passage it needs to be to make that worth doing. Otherwise,
So you want
it.
an almost 70-year-old Tony Stark?
No, I want an
leading
AI.
the charge.
No, I want someone to. In the comics, it's easy. Okay,
bro. Liam Neeson, bro.
He put his intelligence into an AI. Someone finds it.
If you want to put RDJ's voice as like the new Friday or whatever,
they literally made a younger version of him in a movie. They've done this numerous times. Like, it's not a big deal for them to make a younger version of him. He's going to be in certain scenes. It would make sense with Riri because that's how it's in the books. She's mentored by an AI of him. He helps her grow as a hero. He helps her use some of the old tech. You'll do like you'll have two Spider-Man characters basically. And what's wrong with that? I don't know.
I'm just saying.
I love Miles Morales.
I want Riri Williams to have a different. Not that there's more Spider-Man. I want her to have a different origin story than Peter Parker does in the MCU.
I just recently saw this animated
I get
movie.
that, but they've already used that on Spider-Man. They wasted it
all right,
where it didn't need to be.
Turn down.
The comics universe is built on legacy. Like,
okay, but we're not talking about comics universe.
Okay,
it doesn't translate to feature films.
Everybody
yes,
chill
a
out.
lot of it does. A lot of it does.
So that's Matt's take.
Films are not I mean, give me a break. Okay,
I'm just saying it's a different medium. It requires different things.
Understand.
I'm going to end this with my take. I believe you're all wrong. I think I've said this before, and I think you guys should read Comicbook.com. There's some excellent things we've written about Phase 4 and the storyline and the villain specifically. And when you get into like where Phase 4 is headed and what it could set up for the larger MCU, which is something like an amalgamation of Secret Wars storylines and stuff like that, somewhere along the line, because with everything that's kind of fractured in Endgame, eventually this is all got to get kind of fixed in some kind of way. And there's all this stuff about Kang possibly coming in and the Marvel Cinematic Multiverse. I said it before on this show. I'll say, and I've said it in articles, I'll say it again. One of my favorite storylines is Avengers Forever, which basically kind of hinges on a group of Avengers fighting for the timeline. And they're made up of Avengers who are pulled from different points in history. So something like that is an event that you could do that literally could bring back somebody like Chris Evans, Robert Downey Jr.'s Iron Man, but still bring it new because these were different versions. Like, they pulled Cap out right before he was, the secret society had broken him, and finding out America was all screwed up and he was all depressed and like not a reliable leader. That was like a very different Cap than the one we know. And like, so yeah, you could find points like, what if you had to bring in Tony Stark from before he ended up in that cave in the desert and had to try to work with him. Like, that would be an interesting event movie, like worth it. Wow. To see
it's interesting
to see like old man Cap trying to work with like pre-Iron Man Tony Stark and convince him
it's like What If the movie.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool.
Yeah. And so there's definitely concepts where this could happen. But like the Russo said, it's something you can't lame out. It's a card you have to pull out like at the right moment. Like, you saw how long it took for that on your left thing in Endgame to have the power and impact that it does. It took every single film, every single moment, like all of that stuff to kind of get the power of that. And so if you're going to bring back RDJ as like actually Iron Man, I agree. It would have to be a moment that's like epic in an event film that like.
But if it does that take away from the power and the heroism and like the attention from all of this next wave of heroes? Like, we got our next big event film and the big climactic moment, this big epic thing. It's like, oh, and then Iron Man's back. It's like, so take away from everything that all these other characters have been doing in the last decade.
No,
Why can't you have both?
Yeah, it doesn't negate anything.
Because then all anyone talks about is Iron Man coming back.
No, I mean,
no one talks about, oh, Captain Marvel got us here. Oh, Black Panther's leading the charge. Wait, guys, Iron Man.
Dude, Avengers Forever isn't a permanent thing. He comes back at a moment to fight a battle they need, and then it's back to
I get that, and that's exactly what I'm talking about. It's like, oh, they got here, and there's a big battle. What are we going to do, guys?
Well, I feel like you're just
the flying billionaire.
Well, I think you're like just talking about the nature of the Marvel universe in general, where all these things are always possible. There is no, like Matt said, there isn't a permanence to things.
That's not at all what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about possibility. I'm talking about from a story perspective, from a character perspective. If you spend the next phase 4, phase 5, whatever, building a new team of Avengers or whatever they're called, focusing on these heroes, and at their big event film, at their big moment, the whole thing everyone's gonna talk about is, oh, it doesn't matter about them because Iron Man came back. And all the attention is now on the return of Iron Man, and the big hero is going to be Iron Man, and that's stupid.
Yeah, that doesn't sound right at all. I feel like if there's an Avengers, I say, okay, let's just say Phase 4 goes on. There's a new Avengers, the whole diverse thing they build. You know, there's a team that's like Bucky and Sam and Captain Marvel and Miss Marvel and new Hawkeye, Miles Morales, all that stuff, like a completely different looking Avengers, and we get to an Avengers Forever movie like 12 years from now, we're in an Avengers Forever movie or something like that, and then there's a sequence in a scene where these new Avengers are fighting or they need extra help or something like that, and then somebody uses the time majigger to pull a bunch of Avengers from.
But why would they bring the guy who doesn't do anything? Why would you bring back Iron Man if that's the case?
Like Cap and Iron Man were leaders of the original Avengers.
Yeah, exactly, for money. That's exactly right. But there's no logical reason for him to be there.
Yes, there is.
Ever.
He's the hero who saved the world, like from Thanos. He's the one they think of as the godfather and greatest of like one of the greatest superheroes ever. So if you needed guidance from like other Avengers, like that's the guy you would bring back. First of all, let's just think about the logistics. There will be, if that's 12 years from now, right? Okay, so we're talking 2032. Okay.
Which I'm going to look up Robert Downey Jr.'s age when that is, just while you talk.
But the point is, like, you're assuming, like Matt said, the MCU, none of that matters. Michael Douglas had a whole scene in the 50s.
Thank you.
In Endgame. None of that matters anymore, man.
You're talking about putting him in a battle.
Anthony Hopkins has literally played like how many characters that are half
Tupac,
his age?
he hasn't. Freaking hologram Tupac can become our interior secretary tomorrow. That's 2020.
Matter.
We could have hologram Tupac for interior secretary of our government tomorrow. That's a real thing that could happen in 2020. The years where aliens were confirmed.
I'm just saying the idea you brought was putting him in battle as the hero. That's what I'm fighting against.
Yeah, he's a dude in a suit of armor, and we could use CGI to make him look younger. That's not my point. My point is by 2032, like the amount of people who are going to be like, oh my God, Robert Downey Jr.'s Iron Man is back, and that being like this big distracting headline, it's going to be more of a group of kids who are like Star-Lord, who are like, wait, who? Like, oh, that's the guy from the old movies. I remember that. Like,
And my kid is going to ask me who that is.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is the whole point, right? It's the whole point. What I will say is that also part of this, we're assuming a lot, obviously, in this discussion, okay? But what I will say is part of that is also on the directors, the writers, Kevin Feige, all these people developing these new characters. It's on them to make everyone care about them nearly as much as they cared about the originals. They're off to a really good start on the next group. It's on them to make you care so that when Iron Man or Cap or whoever from the past shows up, yes, it's a great, oh my God, that's a great fan servicey moment. But it doesn't take away any shine or any of the substantive stuff that they've built in the other movies with these new people. It's on them. We're assuming a lot. Yes, it could blow up in their face, I guess. But I guess that's what I'm expecting. I don't think it will. I don't see anything from them that has shown me that they would let that happen. But
dude, when RDJ decides to step back on screen, it's a rider in his contract that it has to be one of the most world epic moments.
Again, that's why I mentioned at the very beginning, all it takes is another Doolittle. He'll do whatever he needs to.
Yeah, man. That's the way it is. So let us know how you guys feel about this. Do you want to see Iron Man return to the MCU?
Jeez.
Hit us up at the hashtag Comic Book Nation. We got to keep it moving because we got to close out the show and we still got stuff to do. So we're moving on to another Marvel actor talking about trying to do stuff outside the MCU. Chris Hemsworth just put out this new Marvel action movie called Extraction, in which he plays a very kind of depressed and melancholy, badass super soldier type dude. Not a super soldier. There's no superpowers in this. Okay, let's chill out. He's just a very good player he's like an expert Call of Duty player, real life style. Basically, so he's hired and he's kind of a mercenary now, and he's been hired to it's set in India, and he's basically trying to extract the son of a powerful Indian crime lord who's been abducted by another crime lord. And there's this whole kind of action espionage thing to how he's basically get this kid a smash and grab job and get him out of the city to an extraction point. But of course, things do not go as planned. And so he basically has to kill half of India to get this kid out and save the day. But I just wanted to kind of quick touch on that, mostly because I thought we'd be a little lighter on content today, and mostly because it's literally like the only big movie, really. I mean, we did the other one, which is like Code 8. This is the other big kind of celebrity starring role movie that we have right now, and it just came out. So Extraction is directed by Sam Hargrave, who is a stuntman, and of course you could tell this movie is just like wall-to-wall stunt work. It is not in a lot of way of characterization. You like literally meet the Extraction kid's father in one scene. Tell
me about that, Kofi.
Yeah, the rival crime lord. The rival crime lord is just a guy who cuts off children's fingers on a roof in one scene. And like, yeah, that's all you know about them. And Chris Hemsworth is a guy who survived, and a lot of his other unit did.
I love how you don't even recall his name. It's Chris Hemsworth.
Oh, it's a terrible name. His name's Tyler
Rake. Yeah, Tyler
Rake. Oh my God,
there's a man with a rake in the movie.
That's like a video game name. That's like a
video game.
This movie's a video game.
Dude, his little quarry, the kid he's protecting, actually makes a joke. There's one of the actually only funny scenes of writing, and this is him kind of talking to him about like being a super action dude named Tyler. He's like, you don't look like a Tyler, and he's like, his last name is Rake, and he's like, is that real or something? Like, and like
the one funny thing about aside from that, there's a scene, and it sounds really bad, where Tyler Rake just beats the snot out of a bunch of children. And that sounds really bad, but it actually works really well in the movie.
Yeah,
I was told that before I watched it.
They're child soldier children, like,
right. But even then, it's like, okay, this is bad because I know he murders a bunch of people. I'm like, I don't want to see him just like gritty, like
snap some kids' necks.
But what happens is these child soldiers attack him, and he is not going to kill them, because the line for being a hero in this movie is not killing children. That's the standard for being a hero in this film. That's the only thing about him that is any good, is that he doesn't kill kids, which I thought was normal, but apparently it means you're the star of the movie. And like all these child soldiers come at him, and he's like, God. And they're all trying to shoot him with guns. He'll pick up the gun and he'll like throw him off, and then and he'll drop another one. Backhands one, yeah. And it's really funny because he's trying to like, okay, I'm not going to kill you because you're children, and that's wrong, but go away. He's swatting them like flies. It's very funny.
It's actually the best characterization scene in the whole movie, because
it's the only characterization scene in the whole movie.
I mean, it tells you this guy is like just how an elite soldier he is, but like has morals and stuff, and like that's the best demonstration of it.
The action in the movie, you mentioned Sam Hargrave. The good thing about, because movie was okay. The good thing about this movie is Sam Hargrave's direction. He was Captain America's stunt double for a while. He was the stunt coordinator for Endgame. He knows his stuff when it comes to hand-to-hand combat and action. And you can tell with what he does with the camera. It's really well-directed action work. It's got a little bit of shake to it, but it's not like hard to watch. It's really, really well choreographed. There's that 12-minute long one-shot scene in the middle.
That's crazy.
And I mean, he strapped himself to the top of a car for the chase because he wanted to get he didn't put a camera guy on there. He didn't put a camera on there. He got on the car with it to like follow the action. There's the scene that I actually really appreciated. It was a little thing, but there's a part where at the end of the trailer where Hemsworth throws the kid from one rooftop to the other and he jumps after him. The camera jumps right behind Hemsworth, and like, it's not a drone. It's not smooth. You watch the camera, like you can feel it jumping with him. And it's a really, it's a not quite as good version of what they did in Atomic Blonde, but it was longer and had a chase scene. So it felt bigger. Sam Hargrave really showed that I think he's got what it takes. He's He knows his stuff. He handled the action really, really well. I wish that he had better material to work with because the script is not very good. Joe Russo, for all his accomplishments as a director, not a screenwriter, bud. Not a great screenwriter.
I mean, you know it's set in India, and you maybe know the guy's name is Tyler, and he's picking up a kid.
Yeah, and he's the white kid. That's what you know. It's like, oh, it's the white guy. Go.
Yeah,
that's it. And the ending. I don't know if it's on spoilers. The ending is one I laughed out loud at the final shot. It was so dumb.
There's a funny kind of ending to the movie. I mean, we'll say spoilers, and it's meant to be ambiguous, which you don't really need in a movie like this.
They're trying to do like a setup for a sequel. I don't know. It's so dumb.
Although it does teach you that I'm going to butcher her name. Oh man,
the actress who plays the lead
Farahani is her last name. I can do that part.
She's great when she gets something to do.
Yeah, no, I know. She's a great part of the movie. She actually does hold it down as his kind of handler, former advisor, and she has a great scene in the end.
But then after that, you see the kid coming up out of water like Hemsworth did at the beginning.
Yeah,
and it's like all foggy around him. Yeah, big spoilers. It's been out for a week. I don't care.
No, I'm saying in the beginning he jumps off of water. That's how you know he's a badass. It's because he's sitting on top of a cliff with a bunch of guys, and he says, "Hold my beer," and to kind of sober himself up, he jumps off like a 2,000-foot cliff into the water, which he lands perfectly and sits cross-legged at the bottom of the river so he can meditate.
And it's like, should I kill myself now? I don't know.
Yeah,
that's his characterization. And at the end, the kid jumps off into a pool from a diving board, and then comes back up, and he's like kind of, brushing off of his eyes, and then like off past him, you see a guy with like a hat on, like worn down, like walking up to the edge of the pool, and the kid looks over while it's still blurry, and it ends. And it's
because it looked like he died. It looked like he died saving.
He got shot a lot.
Oh, he got shot a lot. Yeah, it's
he was almost movie. Like he was borderline a Platoon at the end. Like
he was like more like lone survivor. Like he got shot up. Like it's a very bloody and kind of gory, hardcore action movie. It's very John Wickish and it doesn't pull any punches. But it is silly in terms of the characterization and stuff. But luckily, you don't need much of that. Like.
So do you recommend
soldier.
it?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
I do for weekend viewing. I mean, what else do you have
right now?
Yeah.
In the middle of a pandemic, I recommend it because what else are you going to watch that's new
and it's entertaining
exciting?
In terms of action, like it is. The action, like
if you were paying to go see this at a theater, I would recommend to not go.
Yeah, but I would recommend you watched it at home. Like I would say, when it's on Netflix, turn it on, and it is on Netflix, so turn it on. Because, like I said, it's just action. And if you're a person who doesn't like to think too much and like you're watching your popcorn action, like this is haunted ex-badass G.I. Joe. Goes and saves kid, has a couple moments of funny banter with kid while otherwise doing some brutal things.
Netflix has been paying attention to their audience.
Yeah, while doing brutal things to the human body. So, like, you can't really lose. All right. So that's our review of Extraction. So that'll do it. Matt, you have some quick comic things we're just going to throw in there real quick. And before we do that, though, let's hype that, like we said at the beginning of the show.
Yeah.
By the time you hear this, Adam Barnhart will have taken the keys of Quarantine Watch Party and done Daredevil. So be sure to check out all our coverage on Comicbook.com Marvel, because these have turned up. I mean, the greatest thing about these, besides watching with other people, is how they turn out like actual gems of insight about the projects. And so you want to be sure to check out all of that. Even while we're recording this, you got some good stuff out of Daredevil himself, Mr. Charlie Cox. Some great exclusives for us, and I'm sure we're going to have more because I think Vincent D'Onofrio is going to be tweeting. You got a whole lineup.
Stacked, man.
Yeah. I could try to sell it, but I don't know all the details, and by the time they hear this...
Everyone besides Foggy, because Foggy didn't want to do it, but everyone besides Eldon Henson, it's going to be on, was on board. But check it out. Charlie was not shy with his talking. Very, very, very nice guy. Very generous for us. So there's plenty of stuff online.
All right, so check that out. Comicbook.com Marvel. Adam, thank you for taking the keys and keeping Quarantine Watch Party going. And we have more coming up that are going to be fun. So I think Charlie originally might have something in the works. Yeah, we got
hopefully.
Some stuff.
Can't talk about it yet, but
no, everybody's got stuff.
Getting real excited.
We're just selling sizzle right here. We're not selling steak. All right. So that'll do it for. Wait, Matt, did you have any comics thing real quick? We really got to get out. But if you have
we can get out if you need to. That's cool.
All right, we'll do it next week. We'll start at the top of next week with hopefully better comic news for you. That'll do it for this episode of Comic Book Nation. If you're just now getting in the show because you're locked down and have no options, we put up new episodes every Wednesday and every Friday on Comicbook.com, where you can subscribe to our RSS feed and get new episodes of the show every week, or you can listen to your favorite podcast listening platforms. We're on Spotify, Stitcher, Apple, iTunes. Oh man, I'm dying. I'm freezing up. iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, Google Playlists.
Also, it is
watch,
sweet for Alexa popping that Comic Book Nation. Just
is
saying
it back?
out loud.
I haven't been hyping
it does.
because
It works.
they lost the function for a while, and I was really mad, and so I stopped hyping it.
It works.
You can
it
tell
works. It's awesome.
now. You can go back and tell Google or Amazon Alexa to play Comic Book Nation podcast, and it will fire up for you. And mine is probably going to fire up right now because I said that. But yeah, so we're back. Alexa, tell Alexa to play Comic Book Nation podcast and get it popping. All right, so if you want to talk to any of us, you can hit us up with the hashtag Comic Book Nation with new ideas, suggestions, commentary on what we talked about, or just if you want to reach out to us. If you want to get us individually, you can find me at Kofi Outlaw.
You can find me at Matt Aguilar CB.
Charlie.
At Charlie Ridgely.
And at Adam Barnhart.
All right, that'll do it for this episode. Thank you again for tuning in. And if you didn't listen to our last episode, we have an interview with Code 8 star Robbie Amell that was really great, where Matt tries to coerce him into being Green Lantern.
Future Kyle Rayner.
And so check that out as well, because that episode from this week was a definite winner. So be sure to check all of that out. Thank you again for joining us. This is Comic Book Nation. We out. Peace.
Deuces.